Okay, my social media manager is not here today, so forgive the poor quality of this video, but I still wanted to give you a good plant tip. It's just not gonna be up to snuff with my other videos. So this is how to propagate pothos. We're gonna take this really long vine here and we're gonna propagate it. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna cut off part of this really long vine. Now I don't like to cut them where they're all the same length going across. I like them to be different lengths. So with this one, we're gonna go up higher than the rest of these vines, and we're gonna cut this right in between two nodes, which I'll explain what a node is here in a second. Okay, so here we have the cutting we just took, and let me talk about nodes real quick. So these spots where leaves come out from the stalk are called nodes on this plant. And the node is where all the magic happens. This is basically a stem cell. Well, that's kind of funny because it's on the stem of the plant. But in the sense of in here is the genetic ability to become multiple different things. So this node, it could turn into a root, it could turn into a leaf, or it could potentially start to vine out of this spot too. And you can kind of see that in certain areas you have what looks like, you know, little roots coming out already, and that's the magic of the node. The space between the nodes is called the internodal space. And so sometimes you'll hear plant people talk about internode length, because when a plant is not getting enough sunlight, this internode length will stretch out as that plant is trying to search for light. When it's getting the appropriate amount of sunlight and fertilizer, the internode length will be shorter, which makes for a more dense looking foliage plant. But that's a side note. We are here to propagate this plant, so let me show you that. So we are going to get multiple plants off of this one long cutting, and the way that we accomplish that is by cutting the internode space between the nodes. So I'm going to come out from the tip. I'm not going to go all the way out to the tip. So I'm going to come back like 1, 2, 3, 4 nodes for this first cut where the tip of the vine was growing, and I'm just going to snip that off. And then from here on out, I'm going to cut each one of these internodes. I might not do the whole thing that way, but I'm going to do quite a few of them that way so you can see. Snip. Come back here. Okay, so you can see what we're left here with, which are little cuttings, but each cutting has a leaf and a node. Now what some people do is they drop these cuttings down into water and do what's called a water propagation. If you do that, you would not want to submerge the leaf underwater. You'd want to clip this leaf off. Hello. So if you were going to water prop this little cutting, you would have to figure out how to keep the leaf above the water and the node in the water to do it right. And then eventually when it started rooting after a couple of weeks, you would want to transition it to soil. With pothos, however, you can actually do soil propagation, which is what I prefer to do because, well, I'll show you why. I think it's going to work better in this case with these tiny little cuttings, and it's going to give us a fuller plant sooner. So I've got our Lambert potting soil here, just a good well-draining mix, and I'm just going to stick these nodes down and slightly cover them with soil and leave the leaf sticking out the top. So I'm just going to kind of repeat this process, pretend like I'm doing some fancy fast forward editing, or maybe I'll just cut it. Yeah, I'll cut it and then I'll come back. Okay, so there we go. We have those nodes. I think I have about 10 nodes in this pot. And the reason why we do that, that's a big mistake that people make, is they'll just stick one per pot and you're going to end up with just one leggy looking vine coming out of here. But if you do 10 or more cuttings in a single pot, then it's going to be a much fuller plant much more quickly. And as long as those nodes are in contact with the soil, they don't have to be buried deep. We're going to give it some water here. They're going to root within a couple of weeks and start growing new leaves. Ladies and gentlemen, Tony Lee. Follow him on Instagram. He's famous. Yep.